now for Couch Candy with your host, Jen Candy.
So excited. I am your host, Jen Candy. For those of you who don't know me, my father was the late, great John Candy. Here to Second City. Today I am so excited. I've got an amazing guest. He is a Second City alumni. You can see him in films like Home Alone, The Wedding Singer, and Billy Madison. The very talented Mark Beltzman. But before I bring Mark out, I want us to take a look at a clip from Billy Madison starring Adam Sandler, Norm Macdonald, sorry, had to do it, and Mark. Enjoy.
Nice piece of shit.
Oh. My, oh my, wait till old man Clemens realizes it's a bag of shit.
He gonna shit when he realizes it's shit. Who got the lighter?
Light it.
Oh my God, old man Clemens hates shit.
Here he comes.
What the hell is it? What do you want? Judas Priest Barber is one of those flaming bags again.
Don't put it out with your boots, Tad.
Don't tell me my business, devil woman. Call the fire department. This one's out of control. Poop again.
He called the shit poop.
This is the best night of my life.
Mark Beltzman, everyone!
I'm so honored to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here.
Cool.
I ask all my guests actually in the beginning what their favorite candy is.
Snickers.
Snickers.
My favorite.
Why is it your favorite?
Because it's got nuts and caramel and chocolate.
Peanuts.
It's like a meal.
It's like perfect protein.
Now they have dark chocolate Snickers, which is even better.
I've got so many
It's healthy.
different ones.
It's like a meal.
Yeah, it's perfect. A little pick-me-up right when you need it.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that I get to finally have you here.
Yeah, me too.
You're normally sitting there. You're the biggest
I've seen a
supporter of
bunch
the
of them.
show.
Well, I'm a huge fan of you and all the people you have on here and your whole family, and I've known you for so long.
I
It's
know.
great. I'm so proud of you.
I love it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So you're originally, you started off born in Detroit.
Detroit, Michigan, yeah.
What made you kind of
I'm a Motor City boy.
Motor City boy?
Yeah.
Did you always think you wanted to go into acting?
Well, I suppose I played tuba since I was like in 4th grade.
Everyone knows that Mark plays
Yeah.
a mean tuba.
My best friend from high school, his parents had some friends who were photographers, a couple different ones, and one asked me could he rent my tuba for a Lazy Boy chair ad, and I said sure, and he said you want to be in it, and that was like my first acting gig, and I basically started out, believe it or not, as a model. All of this. So I was a model and did a lot of like modeling and commercials and stuff
Commercials
like that.
and print ads
In
and
Detroit,
I
yeah.
think I have a photo of you.
Yeah, Ted Meyer, who's here, took that photo actually.
The flu photo, I
Yeah.
think, in the magazine. How old were you in this photo? I think. Well, there we go.
Oh, that?
Is that
Yeah. No, that's me. That was I was
you?
maybe.
Or hungover photo? I'm not too sure.
I think I was maybe like 20 years old when I started doing that stuff, and the guy. Okay, so Amin Harani was the guy who got me my first TV commercial in Highland Pines, and his assistant was this girl Michelle Andonian, and she did this for the Detroit News and said, "Would you model for this flu? I don't know, it's flu season or something." I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it. I'll do anything. I'm a whore." Yeah. Pay me, don't pay me, I don't give a shit anymore.
I'll just
It
do
used to be pay me, now it's like an audition's like a fucking job. Great, I get to go out. I have to get off the couch and do something.
I forgot. So you did commercial work, and then you started dabbling in improv in Detroit as well.
Yeah. I read Del Close's name in the newspaper, and it said
Okay.
he was the acting coach for Not Ready for Primetime Players.
Oh.
So I literally cleaned out my bank account, and went and registered for his workshop with this guy, John Round,
Okay.
who brought him to Detroit, and that's where I met my lovely wife, Beverly.
Detroit Times.
Yeah, the Detroit Times Theater Company. Timmy Meadows is in there, and Mike Maddox,
Oh, yeah.
a bunch of people who live out here now.
Beverly
Dave
in the
Floyd.
middle there.
Yeah, and
I
so
love it.
that's when Bev and I secretly started dating without anybody in the group knowing. So we thought anyway.
Meanwhile, everyone knew.
Yeah, we've been together ever since. That was 35 years ago. Right.
You guys wear matching shirt, like matching
Yeah,
Hawaiian
we both got our
shirts.
Hawaiian shirts on.
So then, how did you make your way to Chicago?
Believe it or not, well, Michael Gelman came to Detroit to teach a workshop. And then he was teaching in Chicago where he lived. And I wanted to keep studying with him. So I literally commuted from Detroit to Chicago.
Did you
On
really?
Sunday morning, I would drive 5 hours, take his workshop, and either spend the night or not, and drive home for 3 weeks. And I said, fuck this shit, I'm going to move to Chicago. And that's when I got involved with Del Close again. And that was the beginning of what became
IO and
Olympic.
Improv
Yeah.
Olympic.
So I was in the Barons Barracudas, which was the very first group at Improv Olympic.
Oh,
And
wow.
So that's how that happened.
And so then you were there for a while. Then what made you kind of go down the street a bit, or to say to how'd you
Oh well,
find
that was
Second
always
City?
the carrot was always
Dangling?
Yeah, all over the city. I mean, that was the ultimate prize was to get into Second City, and I was fortunate enough. I got hired 2 weeks before the training center started.
Really?
So I never had to do the training center.
Oh yeah, how
Yeah,
yourself?
have as
Do you
many
want
as
more?
you want. Take
Does
some
anyone else
more.
want any more? Because we've got tons here.
Yeah, here, have some. Come on. Yeah.
We can also. In the back. Back corner. Back corner. There we go. Oh, we've got tons. We've got tons. I think there's a whole
There's a
basket
bag
still.
back
There's a
there,
bag
yeah,
back
yeah.
there. There's some on the side. We've got tons. So you skipped out of the
You're so
training center.
rudely interrupted. Jeez. Take it.
I just need the bowl.
Giddy
That's
take-
that
That's a family heirloom.
is a Rose Candy original.
Yeah.
Find out what year that was made. But.
And we're back.
And we're back. That nice commercial Snickers break.
It's improv.
It is improv. Anything else? Which that's what I love. So I had to do the training center. So you skipped out of the training center.
I was
and
lucky
you
I didn't have to do the whole
auditioned
thing.
for Second City. What was that audition process like?
It's well, you're under a pressure cooker. It's really a lot of fun looking back on it, but not at the time. It was pretty nerve wracking. It's a normal audition process. You do 5 through the door, which is a game that you walk in and play 5 different characters and ask 5 different questions.
Yeah.
Then you have to improvise a scene. And I remember this is where ignorance or stupidity really works for you in improvisation. Is the Arlington racetrack had burned down the night before, but I didn't know that because I was out drinking all night and went to bed and woke up and had to go to audition. And so it was me and Chris Barnes doing the scene, and the suggestion was Arlington racetrack. So Chris was playing a fireman, and he's like putting out the fire, and I'm standing there going, go, 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 go! Like I see them running around the thing.
Oh no!
But it was the perfect meld of just,
Perfect blend as
yeah.
you were cheering it to
Yeah,
burn and literally was burning.
It worked. I got in.
And then you started off first originally at the Second City Touring Company.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like being on the road all the time?
It was so much fun. We had such a blast. It was a really, tight core group of folks.
Oh, there's the photo. Oh, look.
It's Holly.
Holly in
your
the middle.
director sitting back
The director
there.
with Sean.
Director of the show.
Cute little white dress. Love it.
It's Dave
Dave
Pasquazi,
Pasquazi.
Tim O'Malley,
Yep.
Billy Cusack, And Joel
Murray.
I can't. Who's Brenda Varda? Is that, and our piano player Dan.
Yep.
Yeah.
How long were you on the road for?
Forever.
Ever?
I spent 2.5 years in the touring company.
Really?
Yeah.
And you liked being on the road?
I did. I really liked it. It worked for us. I don't know. That was she would.
Distance makes the heart grow fonder.
Well,
Or something.
Yeah. Well, it was fun because at Second City you're out all night. It's just our lifestyle because we didn't get off work till 12 or 2 a.m.
Set after.
So I would literally come home at sunrise or like 8 o'clock in the morning after partying all night down at Uncle Stevie's Blues Bar. And she would tuck me in and kiss me goodnight, and she would go take a shower and go to work, and it was great. It worked out great. That's how it was.
What was the worst part, though, about being on tour? Or was there a worst part?
I don't see any downside to it.
There you go. None
I don't
whatsoever.
really remember any. I mean, no, we were making money doing what we loved. It was really cool. You want to be in the main stage, which you strive to get to. So, but that all happened too.
And then you eventually made it to the ETC stage, which is kind of the.
First, I was in Pieces of 88, which was the review we did at Second City Northwest, which was the only show directed by Fred Kaz.
Oh, really?
So that was pretty exciting for that historic value. It was the first company there, and Fred Kaz directed the show.
Right.
And then I got into ETC because me and Joel Murray and Dave Pasquizzi were all supposed to move to the main stage, and Del directed that show, and he replaced me with Farley. So I had to go back to ETC.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Awkward. It was kind of weird. There was a weird thing that had Joyce was like, well, Del's directing the show. If you can talk him into it, fine. So I went to see Del, and Del got really pissed at her for passing the buck and
for her not.
So he wasn't mad at me, but we had this conversation. He just started screaming, and I won't go into that. But
So you went to the ETC.
So I went to ETC. Yeah, did some great shows there with some great folks, and got nominated for a Jeff Award and stuff like that. It was really great, fun, exciting.
And then the show that you did was I have it written American Light.
America Light.
America
was
Light.
the first one, and Merry Go Round. The two different reviews that we did there.
Okay, and the America Light though, did you? There's a scene that you played the tuba in America.
In both of them.
And you played in both of them.
Yeah. I always wrote something for the tuba.
Did you always kind of bring the tuba to everything that you?
Yeah, I think it actually lived at the tuba I have.
Did it really?
I still have. It's 104 years old. I had it restored.
Wow.
But that tuba lived at the theater. Yeah, for the most part.
And is that like a tuba that you had as like a kid?
Yeah. I got it when I was in high school.
Oh wow! And then it traveled with you everywhere.
Yeah.
I actually have a clip from of you playing the tuba.
Really? From what?
From.
Where did you dig this up?
That's what Second City's here for. I've got my mole in Chicago.
Really?
They found a scene with you and Ron West.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That was a great scene.
So let's
Lips up there and blow.
All right. All right, Mark. You want to try again?
Yeah.
All right. What you need to work on is the double tonguing.
Right.
Okay, it's time for bed, you two. Mark, that was wonderful! You keep practicing and you'll be a great kisser like your father.
Now you know why that beautiful young woman is married to this weird old man.
It's 4 o'clock in the morning.
I don't perfectly matter. It's 4 o'clock in the morning. You shut up. My son is practicing. Your wife is a whore. That's it.
Why does Ron West have an English accent?
I know.
That was a
I
great
feel like
scene.
both of you had some sort of English accent going on there.
Yeah, it was great. That was a great scene. Really great.
It's amazing.
I even had hair back then.
You
Yeah, a little.
Slightly lighter,
Mhm.
but it's still there. So you were in Chicago at the Second City ETC, and then you ended up in California doing. Oh gosh, I'm blanking out. It was the Upfront Comedy Showcase.
Oh
out
yeah,
here.
Jeff and Jane had a place in right on the 3rd Street Promenade called the Upfront Comedy Showcase. That was great.
And then
Yeah.
what brought you kind of out here?
Well,
Because
it
you
was,
did the 2 shows at Second City ETC.
and then I actually, that's in Farley.
What am I missing something?
Not really. Farley did go to SNL, and I ended up replacing Farley on main stage.
Okay, so,
It was funny because Joyce told me when he got hired, we hired your understudy today. And then it got turned around. So I ended up replacing Farley, and then they said, you can either stay and do the next show on main stage, or you can go to pilot season, which, everybody does from Second City
Right.
eventually, at least back in those days. So I said, I had already been out here a couple times, and I was being wooed by some managers and agents at the time. And so I said, okay, I'm just gonna make the move. So that's when I came out
so
here.
you came out here for pilot season.
Yeah, and then Jeff and Jane were really happy to see me because Jeff called me a catalyst that I can gather people. So that's when I started the Second City Alumni Jam,
Oh, okay.
and so we all did that for many years out here.
And who came out to that all the time?
There was like 27 or 30 people. We divide up into 4 different groups of 7 or 8 people and
Okay.
do heralds.
Oh
So there
wow,
was like 4 heralds every night.
really?
So it was a cavalcade of stars back in the day.
And-
Ryan Stiles and Joel Murray, and people would come from all over to do that. Robin Williams came a few times, and attracted a lot of A-list stars to come play with us.
And how long did
And-
you end up doing that for?
It went on for quite a few years out here. I ran it for a good 3 years, and then Jeff Machowski took it over after they got booted off the 3rd Street Promenade. Then Upfront went somewhere else, and then it was kind of looking for a home. So
Right.
we did the Ash Grove on the Santa Monica Pier
Okay.
for a few years.
I
Then the
remember, yeah, there
Improv
used to be
here
a
in
theater there.
Melrose, yeah. The Improv on Melrose, which actually became the Second City Theater
Yes.
after that. So it just kind of moved around town for a while. We even did the Comedy Store when they were in search of a home, and then it just kind of fizzled out.
There you go.
People started doing other stuff.
So how did pilot season go for you, like out here when you moved
I
out
never
here?
really got that ticket.
No.
I just never, I did a lot of guest star stuff, and I was very fortunate to work, but I never got I had one series I got hired for. It was called Vinny and Bobby, and it was a takeoff from Married with Children, one of the kids, who's the guy in Friends, who has his own show.
Matt
Matt LeBlanc.
Okay.
So Matt LeBlanc's show, it was called Vinny and Bobby, and I got hired, I was on unemployment, then I was making $10,000 a week, and 2 weeks later I was back on unemployment.
That's how
Yeah. The network made a phone call, my agent made a phone call and said, the networks wants to make some changes, and you're one of them.
And
Yeah. They told me I wasn't fat enough, I swear to God.
I swear to my life, you're either not fat enough or you're not skinny enough.
can't-
It's like
yeah.
you can't be that in between size. They don't know.
Yes,
what
you
to do
can,
with
damn
you. You
it.
can. They just don't know what to do with you.
Right.
How did you get your SAG card? What was your first?
That was in Detroit, I did commercials.
Oh,
I
so
did-
you got your SAG.
Yeah, I did a bunch of,
Obviously, you would have gotten your SAG card. From
yeah, so
commercials.
before I left Detroit, I had SAG.
Well, I didn't know if SAG, because AFTRA wasn't back then. Because technically,
They were just two-
commercials were
Right.
AFTRA, and then SAG was film and movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it went back and forth.
Well, there you go.
SAG was a better contract back
Question
then.
then, what was your first movie that you did with my dad? Movie.
It had to be Uncle Buck, I guess, because
And then you have a story about
we got cut out of
You
it.
got cut
yeah.
out. So what was that scene? Because I have the photo, and I.
Well, it was me, Hags is here. Has Hags here? I heard you were
Yeah.
here somewhere.
Yep, you're
So
you're in there
we did
too.
like 3 days of shooting. It was one of the most fun shoots I ever had.
Yeah, it was great, it was, we got cut out, but.
But you're here to tell the story, so that's what.
So the
that's what
premise
matters.
was Buck promised he wouldn't play cards in the house, but he couldn't stop gambling, so we
They
played.
were playing like musical chairs for like a $10,000 buy-in.
And we played Pictionary for money too, right? Then we played Pictionary.
Yeah, we were improvising.
And your dad lost all his money playing Pictionary, so then we played musical chairs for 10 grand. Or something. 10 grand. But there's a bunch of Teamsters in there. Your dad's personal driver was in there.
Frankie's in the green, my dad's driver.
Yeah.
And then John Hughes is on the couch. I am not familiar with who is the Domino's pizza guy. Was it the real Domino's pizza guy? That was
His name was Mickey.
That was the second meal.
Yeah, it was, second meal.
Yeah, that was really fun. I think, and the letter John Hughes sent me about being cut out was really heartfelt, and I think he thought it was really funny too, but it just, for whatever reason, didn't work in the film.
If it makes you feel any better, every John Hughes movie I was in, I also got cut off. I was in Trains, Planes, and Automobiles. I was one of the little girls that my dad sold shower curtain rings in the bus station. I have a photo. I have the footage, but I got cut out of that. There was another John Hughes. Yeah, I always got cut out of them. I just never understood. I never understood that. I was like, what did I do? It was such a great little scene, but they just need those little moments.
Nepotism.
So crazy. But then you eventually did make it into a John Hughes film.
Yeah, no, John Hughes was very good to me. I did Home Alone was great, and your dad only had one day to shoot that.
Yeah, it was like a whirlwind of a 24-hour, less than 24 hours.
Yeah, it was really great. And then I always have a great story to tell about.
I know, I want to hear
the
this.
back of the van, because your dad was standing with John Hughes, and it was Chris Columbus's first film he directed, and they knew Second City. I'd met your dad several times at Second City, and they're like, Mark, come over here. So we're trying to figure out this scene. You have any ideas? And I came up with all these great ideas. And your dad only had one day to shoot it, so we were going on hour 20 of shooting. And they were setting up for their fourth meal, and they're like, okay, forget that. We're just gonna do a 2-shot on John and Catherine. You guys pretend like you're asleep. And then they shot the scene. Your dad just said everything I had said in all the ideas I had in that meeting. And they all cut, and your dad looks at me and goes, hey kid, I used all your stuff, I hope you don't mind. And I was like, no, that was great. And I was so naive, I should have asked for a writing credit. It was like, I know, I was just so happy to be there and so excited to be working with your dad and John Hughes, and it was really fun.
They do that in auditions now when you go in for I don't know if you noticed with improvisers, they specifically say, don't like, we won't pay you if we take your idea, essentially. I was like, so you have to be careful when you go out for auditions. You're like, don't give them your best material, I guess, when you improvise.
Yeah.
Or do and
go ahead and do
job.
somebody else's material.
I know.
Yeah, I steal material from other people to do auditions all the time.
Good actors borrow, great actors steal, and vice versa, and it works out. But I love that scene, and it makes me laugh that because I was trying to find a good.
That's my actual tuba too, by the way.
Is that?
That's really my tuba. Yeah, that's the 104-year-old tuba.
Did you at least get a kit rental for that?
No, nothing.
Nothing.
No.
I'd offer you some more stickers, but they're all gone. I always love that story. Okay, I've got I kind of was picking. I just love your career and all the stuff that you have done, and I picked a couple key things that I find highlighted for me, and I want you to kind of tell me a story about it.
All right.
The first one was I saw this movie in the theater, Mo Money, with the Wayans brothers. What was it like working with them? Was there any was it improvised? Was it scripted?
No, it was interesting. It was difficult.
Did you hate it? Love it?
Well, I love being an actor. I just love being there and being paid to do what we love. It's just so exciting.
Yeah.
So that was my first really the biggest role that I had up until that point. Maybe up until this point, who the hell knows? There was a scene where I get beat up, and that guy was the actor was really self-indulgent. He actually smacked me around pretty good.
Did he really?
And then Damon Wayans took me aside and he's like, don't ever let anybody touch you like that again. It's like, that's what they have stunt people for. If anybody hits you like that, you hit them back. So he was Damon was very nice to me.
He was protecting you.
Yeah, he was.
Oh, I didn't realize you really got roughed around.
Yeah, I've been in therapy for a long time over this, Jen. Thanks a lot. You enjoyed it.
Moving on to the next slide. Quick, Billy Madison. Billy Madison. What would you which I think you're most known for, like face-wise. Everyone says you look familiar. Oh,
Yeah.
Billy Madison. I love this movie. You either love it or you hate it. I love it. I get ridiculed a lot for it because.
Yeah, Adam Sandler fans
what's
take
it like?
a lot of shit.
I know they do.
Which pun to the first scene you saw.
But what was it like working with Adam Sandler and his whole crew? And
It was great. You know, I was not a huge Sandler fan before I got this film because I, like many people, was just, he's really sophomoric and
Right.
kind of silly. Because I only knew him from SNL.
Well, I was just gonna say SNL. This was probably this was his big film.
His first big film, yeah.
Yeah, and
I think
then-
it's still probably his favorite film. But after I met him, and that whole summer, those guys, Norm and Adam, were still on SNL at the time.
Okay.
And so there were 5 scenes that made it to air that I remember just doing in Sandler's room.
Really?
And so then I realized he just does what he thinks is funny. Basically what he does is he makes home movies with all of his friends. And
Yeah.
he's laughing all the way to the bank. And people can love him or hate him. But, you know,
Yeah.
he basically employs all. And now he's at a level where, you know, everybody, you know, like the Pacinos and De Niro,
Right.
people want to work with him. So, you know, it's amazing. But if you stick to your, you know, improv is always about being honest, truthful, and real.
Right.
And so if you're just honest and truthful and real to yourself and your career, then you're unstoppable. And I think that's kind of the key and lesson that I learned from that.
That's a really good lesson
Yeah.
to learn and kind of to take from that.
Mhm.
I have one little clip from this another one from this movie that I love because it makes me laugh and
Okay.
it's short and sweet and hopefully you like it too.
Stop it! Who are you? I don't even know you. Go away, mister.
Are you okay?
Yeah. The mucus queen is yours.
Yeah.
Everybody knows that.
I was gonna say, whose idea was that? Was that his or was that yours or was it just?
It's all him, man. We used to fuck around a lot and had a lot of fun improvising off camera, and some of it made it on camera. But yeah, it was just kind of like hanging out with Sandler, you know.
Yeah, and then you did another Adam Sandler film. You were in The Wedding Singer.
Yeah, that was sort of because he had promised me a part in. Happy Gilmore, and it got written out.
Oh.
So he's like, all right. So he gave me this
He
part.
gave you this part.
Yeah.
Are you really a Flock of Seagulls fan?
No, I didn't even know who the Flock of Seagulls were. When I did this, I had no idea. I'm like, all right, I'll do it. We're gonna fit you for a wig, okay?
You're like, fine,
I saw
perfect.
the wig. I'm like, ooh, I had no idea. No, it was all him. But I did as always. You know, we have a lot of fun together. So I think the script said something about him asking me, do you like the Flock of Seagulls? So when we came time to shoot it, I jumped his line and said, hey, do you like Flock of Seagulls? Thinking I'd mess with him. He goes, no, but I can see you do, and that's what the final cut was actually. So.
That scene, there you go. Go
There
with
you
your
go.
instinct. You made it's a very memorable scene.
And I never talked to him again, so I guess.
There you go. You also worked. You did Seinfeld and Curb Your Enthusiasm, so you got to work with Larry David.
Yeah.
Which is both of those shows. Well, Seinfeld is more scripted, and then Curb Your Enthusiasm is
all improvised.
Is all
yeah.
improvised. What was it like working with him and working in those formats?
Yeah, he was great. Larry David is just exactly what you see on Curb. He's neurotic as hell, and he's a genius. He's just a genius.
Yeah.
And it was fun working with him. That scene, they show him from the back. He could not keep a straight face in Curb. He would laugh the whole time. And there's actually the best part of the footage got cut out because at the end of it, I just go, fuck you, Larry. And he goes, oh yeah, fuck you. And we started screaming, fuck you at each other. And it was right in front of American Airlines. Because they said your call times at LAX were shooting it. And so they were literally getting on the plane to go to New York. There was no time. They were literally shooting it. I mean, I had like 2 or 3 takes, and they go, okay, we got to get on the plane. And it was all on American, and I guess American Airlines threatened to sue if we kept that in because it was really offensive. It was so funny.
I was going to ask, were you guys really in LAX? And you answered my question. Yes,
Yeah.
you were.
No, yeah, they showed up to get on the plane, and they just said, show up, we're going to shoot this on the fly, basically. So.
Wow.
I mean, they had all the equipment and lighting and stuff there and a crew, but they got on the plane after that scene, and I had to go home.
And you went home. And I was just going to say, you didn't.
Yeah.
No flight there for you. That's okay. But I think this scene is funny, and then the little bit on Seinfeld with the jacket.
Yeah, that was great. Being on Seinfeld was a lot of fun. Those guys were really good to me. It was really fun.
That show is so much fun.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other one that it sticks out in my mind because that's where we reconnected. Because I've known you my whole life practically through Tino and Sana, who was my dad's good friend. But then we reconnected on According to Jim.
Yeah. I remember that was your first gig.
That was my first gig. I started off doing background, and then I got bumped up to stand-in, and then I got a couple little bit parts on it. And I was there for 5 seasons. I think there was 8 seasons total, and I think I had just missed the first 2. So I was there the whole entire time.
That's awesome.
Which was so much fun. And then you were in and out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah. We don't have to go into that, but
right. That's a different show.
That's a different show. But I had seen you. I had seen you there before, so that was a lot of fun because it was nice for me because I felt like According to Jim, I reconnected with a lot of people that I then made connections and just continued to keep all my connections up.
Yeah, and it was great, and I give Jimmy a lot of credit for that. I mean, he really helped, gave a lot of people jobs, and kept me my insurance and all that stuff. So he was great to a lot of people for that. And it was great to see you on the set.
I know,
awesome.
It was always fun where I would be like, oh wait, there's work, and then you'd see another person, and then Mitros, and
And it was me and John Rubano, who's another Second City guy.
And you guys were all band members.
We were the garage band,
in the garage band, which was just so much fun.
That was a hoot, for sure.
I loved it. Now, your shirt is inspiring me.
To what?
To Maui.
Go to Hawaii?
Because I want to go to Hawaii.
All right, let's go.
You teach improv.
Yeah. Well, I helped found a company over there called MauiImprov.com, and the local people, it's all locals, and they keep it going and run it.
Yeah.
And I can go over and teach and perform whenever I want, so it's kind of fun.
Fantastic. Couch Candy is going to Maui, guys.
Yeah.
Do the whole show. We'll pretend like none of this happened, and then we'll just have a Groundhog Day moment.
We can do Couch Candy in Maui.
Yes. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I'm probably the moment I found out that you teach in Hawaii, I was like, so how can I get myself to Hawaii? No, that's fabulous.
I can send you over there and teach.
So, and how long have you been? How long has that theater?
It's been going strong for about almost 3 years now. Yeah.
And when were you just there recently?
I was there twice this year already. I think I was there in January and then March, and I haven't gone back yet.
When are you gonna go back?
I don't know.
See how
I kind of just go when I want. Yeah.
But you also teach here too, right?
Yeah, I teach all over the world. I love teaching. It's sort of like going to the gym. Get you work out your brain and remind yourself as a working actor is what you need to be doing when you're on a set or on stage. And it's fun to share those lessons and spread the gospel to people and.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what is your philosophy?
Well, to me, we call it improv and acting, but it's just life lessons. It's stuff you should be doing anyways. Make your partner look good, you look twice as good. Replace thinking with listening, being in the moment, being honest and truthful and real. Stuff we talked about a few minutes ago. And those are the principles of life, really, and that's what keeps you going. When finding, gratitude in everything that you're doing and. That's the stuff that I teach. I'm a huge fan of Abraham Hicks, and so a lot of that stuff is penetrates my philosophy of teaching, and I enjoy it. It's really fun.
That's fantastic.
Mhm.
It's when you say kind of making it real, and that's what's funny, and comedy comes from that and being yourself and kind of.
Comedy's not about being funny.
No, not at all. It's
about
some
being
people,
real.
Exactly, and they always want to try and go for the shtick or the joke, or they're forcing it too much as opposed to just kind of letting it simmer.
Yeah.
And then it'll
That's
get
why
there.
I call my workshops the Art of Allowing Improv workshops, taken from Abraham, which is all about the art of allowing.
Right.
Letting it happen to you instead of you trying to make something happen.
Describe, like, I know that I've seen you say, like, new choices. Like, what
New choice.
bad choices or just new choices? I'm just kidding.
New choice. It's a good improv game. New choice.
New choice. Explain it.
The game?
Yeah. Oh, no, does everyone know what new choice is?
Yeah.
Play it.
New choice. A new choice is a game
See,
where
some
you.
people don't know it.
So you play. It's two persons are doing dialogue. Whenever one person says a line of dialogue, somebody is calling the game will say new choice, and you have to make up a new line of dialogue. And as many times as they say new choice, you have to make a new line of dialogue before you can continue
The scene.
with the scene. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fun game to play.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
It is. I have
New choice.
a outreach program I call it.
New choice.
Yeah.
I won't go any further. But so you are teaching, you're playing the tuba, you're in a show. Do you still do, you were in a show called Tubazar?
It's
Do you
my
still
own
do
show.
that? Is that your show?
New choice.
New
Yeah,
choice.
new choice.
You were in
Wow.
a musical
Good
called
caller.
Reanimator.
Get out. Tubazar is a show. It's a show I do. I'm the czar of the tuba, and I invite other artists to come play their music. They just have to write me a tuba part. So I get amazing songwriters and artists to come play music, and I get like 4 or 5 artists for each show. And the last one I had Lawrence Juber, who is the lead guitarist for Paul McCartney, and
Wow.
get to play with these guys that he produced.
Oh,
It's
fun.
called Without a Net. That was a fun. It's a play about an improv group.
That's that play.
Right.
Got it.
Mm-hmm. And so Harry Dean Stanton has come played harmonica with me, and there's some amazing songwriters from around town that I get to come play with.
Oh wow, that's fabulous. So
Yeah, it's all music.
I need to come see that because I've been meaning
Yeah.
to come see that, but I just haven't made it out. So I apologize.
Right on. You will.
Okay, so
Do you play anything?
I played the clarinet. I am not very good anymore. I played the clarinet in 8th grade because I had to pick an instrument, and I was like, sure, why not? Like my dad, I had my dad's clarinet. I was like, oh, I'll play that.
Yeah.
I picked up the clarinet maybe like 8 years ago, and bought music. I was like, I'm gonna practice. And my dog went nuts. He was like, what are you doing? And it didn't work. So
We have to revive the Schmangies.
revive the Schmankies. I know. I was like, it's hard. I used to know how to play "Oh Canada" and then one of the Aladdin songs that I had to do for some sort of ensemble piece in 8th grade, and I was so nervous that I just kind of I mined most of it because I was like, this is really hard. They're like, "Oh Canada" and Aladdin in front of like all of these people, and I was a little nervous. I've always wanted to play the banjo. My brother tried to teach me how to play guitar. That didn't quite work. My mother wanted me to play piano. I can't quite do that. My brother is the musical one.
Yeah, talented trumpet player.
He's the talented trumpet player. Yeah, then you can play the piano and you can
We've
sing.
never played together. We're gonna have to make that happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'll be fun. But and then you were also in a musical with George Wendt called
Reanimator. The musical. Yeah, they just recorded the cast album.
What was
Yeah.
that about?
It's based on a horror movie of the same name. It won the Cannes Film Festival in 1985, And Stuart Gordon, who's was the artistic director at the Organic Theater in Chicago, has been a cult horror movie director for years.
Yeah.
He's world renowned. So he also co-wrote and produced and directed the musical. And him and George have been friends since back in the Chicago days, so they work together a lot. And I was honored to be a part of it. Mark Nutter, who wrote the music, Mark Nutter was doing Tu Bizarre a lot. Back then, when Fred Kaz was still with us, I used to do it once a month. He was kind of my motivation to get him up on stage, and I'd give him the rest of the night. So he played a lot at those shows.
Wow.
So Mark Nutter was doing it a lot, and I was going to go to the first reading of Reanimated, staged reading, and Nutter called me like 2 days before, and he goes, "Hey, look, I know you're not a bass vocalist, but you understand the bass parts. Could you sing the bass parts for the reading?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I was going to come anyways."
Oh, wow.
So that's how I got into it, and they were auditioning punk rockers to play the first Reanimated zombie because it's a real screaming part, you know?
Yeah.
It's all you do is scream and die.
I like it.
And so they asked me to read that part, and once I read that part, Stuart was like, "That's the guy." So that's how I got the part, and then Stuart knew I was a Second City guy, so I kept getting more and more roles as they were putting the show together, and I ended up playing 8 different parts or something.
Oh
like
my
that.
gosh, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm. But also I basically did in the play, I sang all the chorus stuff with everybody, but I basically just screamed, squirted blood on the audience and died. Because the first 4 rows were the splash zone, so people would come for hours and hours and wait in line to get in
I
the
would
first
see
couple
photos
rows.
of when you were doing that, and it was just people are.
Well, it's crazy. It had several levels. The people were the movie fans.
Right.
Reanimator's a huge cult movie.
Yeah.
There's
I've
this
seen the
one
movie.
scene in the movie where the guy who steals the reanimated serum from the college students gets his head cut off, and the college student reanimates his body and his head separately. So the doctor is in love with the dean's daughter, ties her down on a gurney and takes his decapitated head and goes down on the girl in the gurney. So that's the big, and it's so campy, it's funny. It's more humor than horror. And so there's huge cult fans from the movie. There was huge cult fans for Stuart Gordon.
Right.
There were huge cult fans from who George Wendt fans. Everybody just wanted to see George. So people would wait for hours to get in the front row and just get squirted. They'd wear white, and we'd squirt them with blood every time somebody died. And I had most of those roles, so it was really fun from that perspective. It was the closest thing I had done closest to a Second City show because I had so many different characters.
Right.
And all I was doing was dying, screaming, squirting blood, and then changing clothes and running on. I was constantly running. It was really fun.
It's a good cardio workout.
It was. I was really in good shape doing that show.
I love it. So is there another project that you're working on now? I remember seeing on your Facebook page that you've got a film coming, an independent film.
Oh, there's a screening of a movie I did. It's a short film at the LA Shorts Festival this Tuesday.
Okay.
It's at the Regal Theater at LA Live, and it's LA Shorts Festival. I think it's 5:30 p.m. is the screening of. They put a whole bunch of short films together. So.
And is that the one with Larry
called-
Hank? Is that the one?
No, that was last week.
What was that?
That was last
Okay.
week.
How was that?
short.
How did
was
that
short.
go?
That was fun. That was fun. It was a short film I did with Larry Hankin, Howard Hessman, and Fred Willard.
Okay.
That was a cute film. This one is called Panofsky's Complaint.
Okay.
And I play a New York City doorman who gets into some trouble with an altercation on the subway with a couple. And it's a funny film.
I love it. You just keep yourself busy. That's the key. Is to keep yourself
That's
busy.
it.
It's
Yeah.
like as an improviser and an actor, you never retire. You just find
No, there's
new...
nothing I'd rather be doing than working.
Yeah.
I love what I do, and I get to go from one thing to another, whether it be movies or TV or stage or musicals or playing tuba and teaching. So I get to do all these different things, and I love them all.
If there was like one piece of advice that you could give to a student starting off at Second City, what would that be?
Really, it'd just be to be honest and truthful and real. The more real you can be, and it's the internal work, that makes you happy.
Mm-hmm.
And being happy is, healthy and happy are the only two important things in life. I always tell my students, there's only 2 things that are important in life. going to bed content with what you accomplished that day, and waking up the next day excited about what you're going to do. And it doesn't matter whether you're homeless or you have millions of dollars. That's all there is. And so that would be my advice, is just be content with what you accomplished that day and have something lined up so you're excited about getting up the next day to do it.
I love it. That's great.
Yeah.
Now, before we end the show, I kind of do this thing called the Candy Connection. It's it's kind of like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, except
Yes.
for 6 degrees of John Candy. And so I'm going to have Jason help me with this one, because he can pull up some stuff. But I'm gonna go.
All right.
Go through it. So you were in Home Alone with Catherine O'Hara and my dad.
But that's only 1 degree. That was.
Hold on. I can do it. That is only 1 degree. Okay.
Yeah. I could touch him.
I know. Okay. You were in Billy Madison with Norm Macdonald, who is Canadian, and my dad was Canadian. We know all Canadians know each other. Therefore, it leads to John Candy.
But that's only 2 degrees. I thought this is 6 degrees.
Okay. I can do this. Okay.
By challenging you on your own game?
You were challenging me on my own game. Okay, Jason, we ready for this one? Okay. You were in Wedding Singer with Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore was in Charlie's Angels with Demi Moore. Demi Moore was married to Ashton Kutcher. Ashton Kutcher was in Dudes, Where's My Car with Jennifer Garner. Jennifer Garner is still technically married to Ben Affleck. Ben Affleck is Batman in the new recent Batman movies. Another Batman is Michael Keaton. Michael Keaton was Beetlejuice in Beetlejuice. Catherine O'Hara was in Beetlejuice with John Candy and Mark Beltzman.
Well done.
It's not fair, Candy. It's your 1 degree. It's challenging to actually make it 6 or more. Like, you know.
That was like 8.
It was 8. I flubbed
Well
a little
done.
in the middle. But
That's all right.
But that's it. But we're out of time, Mark.
No way.
We're out of time.
I hate that.
I hate that we're out of time. But I want to say thank you so much for being here. You're
I'm
huge.
so honored
You
that
guys
you
are
asked me.
huge
Thank
supporters
you.
of the show, and I love having you in the audience. I love seeing you afterwards. I love finally having you on the couch and talking to you, and
Thank
your
you.
whole process with improv and your outlook on life and everything.
Thanks.
So I appreciate it. And
Thank you for having me. I love you. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
And the work that you're doing, and keep it up, and I'll do anything with you anytime.
I love it. Fantastic. And thank you